What's good, family? It's your boy Old Soul J, and I'm back with another video. So listen, guys, this video is well overdue, and honestly I've been saying that a lot lately, and that's just because there's so much to talk about. There's so much that I could talk about. There's just certain things in the past I've skipped over because I felt like, alright, I have to talk about things that are actually important for a person's well-being, right? For a person to grow, for a person to just, heal their traumas and, just become a better person, whatever the case is. Because my biggest focus is, the biggest thing I want to do more than anything is to actually help people. Entertainment is cool, and I don't want to bore anybody to death while I'm giving them information or things that could help them. But because of this mindset, I've kind of like floated over or just neglected certain things that are very necessary to teach, just because I felt like these are basic things that a person would already know. I'm not thinking from the perspective, or at least before, I wasn't thinking from the perspective of another person. I was thinking about from my perspective in terms of what I would want to hear. Today, what we're talking about is your astrology chart. Now, I'm very excited to speak about this because, people widely believe in astrology, right? Especially women. So it's not generally a thing that is only believed amongst esoteric or conscious topics, conscious teachers, or just spirituality, right? Or just astrologers. It's not only believed in that. Even people who are very religious believe in astrology because it's just undeniable. Now, with that being said, though, there are people who do not believe in astrology. I know people, some I've been very close to in my life, that do not believe in astrology. When I was younger, especially like middle school, early high school, I didn't believe in astrology because I didn't believe the idea of, oh, you were born in a certain time period and this is what that says about you as a person. But here's what led me to learn about more or believe in more in astrology. So for those of you who don't know, which is probably all of you, my sun sign is a Sagittarius. So when I was younger, I would come across, posts and things that said different things about Sagittarius, what it meant as, or personality traits, basically, of a Sagittarius. And, I would see those things and I would say, this is true about me, but there's certain things about signs that I would read and I'd be like, I don't know if this is true for other people. Like, maybe this is before I, started saying I don't believe in coincidences, because I don't believe in coincidences. But at that time, I thought it was a coincidence. So what led me to fully understand and realize that astrology is actually very much spot on is that you have other signs. Right after high school, I still didn't know about your other signs. But at this point, I kind of was believing in it because I started to know more about a person's sun sign. You see, your sun sign is based on the day you were born. So the birthday you were born, right? So your sun sign itself is the sign that everybody knows, right? Like based on the months, you know what I'm saying? But when you go and look at your entire chart, now this is when it gets more unique to you. You put your birth time exactly. You have to get it exactly right. The day you were born, which, that's already given from the sun sign. And then you also have to put where you were born and your name and things of that nature. Now this is unique to you, right? What is the likeliness of someone being born on the same day as you, the same time as you, coming out the womb the same exact time as you, in the same city, location? It's very, very unlikely, right? So here's the thing. The reason why people don't truly believe in astrology, the ones who don't, or at least their zodiac sign, is because they only know their sun sign. They only know their regular sign. Like if you were born at a certain time of August, you're a Leo. They only know that part of themselves. If you were born in late October, early November, you're a Scorpio. They only know those parts of their signs. But your chart has an entire list of different placements. That part of your placement, that sign, is just your sun sign. You have an entire list and each placement says something different about you. So now maybe you may have read about only your sun sign. And maybe you said, okay, some of this is true and some of this is not. It's too vague. That only says a part of you. Due to combinations of your other placements, it's gonna vary. And plus, we're also influenced by people we're around and who we are raised by. So you may have some traits from your father or your mother who's a completely different sign than you, so it mixes in with you a little bit. But let's break down. Well, first, I'm gonna list for you guys all the signs that's in your chart first, and they affect each other. But we're gonna mostly only talk about, to me, what like the main 5 are. And I don't know if I should say that because they're all important, right? You should know your whole chart. So if you don't know your whole chart after this video, or even right now, go look up your entire chart and find out what that means for you. Because once you start doing this, that's when it's like, oh, you can't deny it. Because maybe your sun sign didn't say enough about you, but when you start to put the pieces together and what your entire chart says all together, it starts to become less vague, and it starts to become very on point, very precise. And at that point, it's undeniable. So for someone like myself who's looked into what it means for every placement in my chart, I'm at the point now where I know this to be true. Now, I'm going to read to y'all really quickly your different placements, right? You have a sun sign, a moon sign, Libra rising sign, a Mercury sign, a Venus sign, a Mars sign, a Jupiter sign, a Saturn sign, a Uranus sign, a Neptune sign, and a Pluto sign. That's 11. So think about how the mixture of different placements and signs there's possible. That's what makes you unique. You and someone else can both be Leos, but still be different. Because y'all entire chart could be completely different. You just have that one part that's the same. Now, what does that sign tell you though? So let's start off with the most popular, the sun sign. I heard this example before that I'm going to use that I like. Put it like this. Right now we're going to talk about the sun, your rising sign, and your moon sign. A lot of people consider this the big 3. Now, your rising sign or ascendant sign is like the front of your house, how your house looks from the outside. Your sun sign is when you first come inside the house, and the living room, the kitchen, the grand scape of the house, how it looks when you first walk in. Your moon sign is more deep. So the moon sign would be in your bedroom, in your closet, how you feel deeply emotionally, right? So I'll use myself as an example for right now to explain how this is so spot on. And this is the thing too, a lot of people don't really know themselves that well. So a lot of people have a false identity, or a lot of people want to be a certain type of person, or they believe themselves to be a certain type of way, or they're just certain things about themselves that they don't recognize because they're not truly honest with themselves and they're not truly self-aware. Now, let me talk about really quickly my sun sign. My sun sign, I'm a Sagittarius, like I said earlier. Oh, before I even get into that, right? Before I use myself as an example, let me give y'all a little bit more insight on what your sun placement means. Your sun represents your ego, your identity. It's like the center of your chart. Remember how I speak about how we all have a human identity, which is based around the ego. That is more so of the traits that your sun sign represents. Now, your moon, like I hinted at when I said, you know, the part of the house that's in your room, in your closet, that is your emotions, your inner self, your deep self, that inner voice in your head, your instincts, which your subconscious mind, the energy that it resonates in more. Your rising sign is more about how you represent yourself. So this is how people would see you that don't know you that well. Like your first impression on people. I used to work at Urban Outfitters, and you know, Urban Outfitters, you know, you could tell by some of the stuff that they sell, you know, that type of stuff is popular, right? So, you know, some of the people that would work there is into that type of stuff as well. And a lot of times people that would try to guess my sign, you know, that's a little funny thing that people who are into astrology like to do. They try to guess your sign, or women in general like to do this a lot. And a lot of times they would guess my rising sign when they're trying to guess my sun sign. Why? Because they didn't know me that well. This is their first impression of me, or just knowing me by passing, not really knowing me. You know what I'm saying? Just knowing of me, or you know what I mean? So a lot of times they would guess my rising sign. This is just evident because this would be consistent. When really I more so resonate in my sun sign for sure, and then my moon sign, I definitely feel that in terms of how I feel emotionally and the things that I feel like I need to work on and stuff, things of that nature. So that's why they say like your sun is really like who you are naturally, right? Your natural egotistical identity. Your moon is really like how you feel, that inner voice in your head. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna explain more like based on my signs, like how this is apparent, what that means. And your rising or your ascendant sign That's just how you come off to people, their first impressions of you. So like I was saying, if people knew their full chart and they actually started to dive into what that says about them, the denial will start to go out the window. I always say this, and especially like when I talk about religions and stuff like this is what you call ignorance, right? This is literally ignorance. Ignorance is just the lack of knowing something. It is foolish for you to declare. I mean, look, you could say you don't believe it because obviously you believe it or you don't, right? So if you don't believe it, you don't believe it. But it's kind of foolish to me to declare that something cannot be true when you don't know anything about it. You have nothing backing up your belief. It doesn't make any sense. I say that so much. I might have to make a shirt saying that. It doesn't make any sense. So before I get into the other two placements I want to talk about, as that's your Mars and your Venus, right? Because look, I try not to make my videos too long, but I guess it's a good thing because that means I'm really going in, or I'm really giving you some information. But I didn't think it would have took me that long to say what I said so far. But I'm also kind of yapping. But anyway, now let's get into my sign. So I'm a Sagittarius sun. And what does that say about me? Now, if you look up what a Sagittarius sun is, right? A Sagittarius sun. At your core, you're curious, optimistic, truth-seeking. You crave freedom, experience, and meaning. You want life to be big. You probably are drawn to exploring ideas, travel, spirituality, or personal growth. People sense your warmth, humor, and open-mindedness, but you can also be blunt when you speak your truth. No objections there. And it's so obvious, and so obvious. You see what I do. Now, Capricorn moon, what does that say about me? Right? Emotionally, you are much more controlled and disciplined than your sun sign suggests. Now, I love this about myself because my moon and my sun represent a beautiful balance of who I am. But anyway, you don't like showing vulnerability easily. You prefer to stay composed and handle your feelings through actions and achievements. You crave security, structure, and respect, even though your sun seeks adventure. This gives you a balance of fire and earth. You dream big, Sagittarius, but also work hard to make it real. Yeah, no objections there. That is who I am. But now let's read about my rising sign. My rising sign is a Libra. Right? Your outer presence is graceful, likable, tactful. You come across as balanced, intelligent, and easy to talk to. People often find you approachable and stylish. You have natural social awareness. You can read rooms well and adapt to maintain harmony. However, you sometimes avoid conflict and overthink decisions to keep the peace. Now, this is how I act or am around more so crowds of people that I don't know very well. Once I start to get to know a person, you'll start to see my sun sign more. Now, once we get really close, then you will see my moon sign more because of what drives me and my ambitions or how I approach it, right? And all of these things are very, very true about myself. You have to look more into your signs. So really quickly, I'm going to go over what it says about Venus, right? So Venus, it says how you love, attract, and connect. Now, Venus shows what you value, right? What you find beautiful and how you express affection, right? It governs love, romance, pleasure, style, art, and relationships. It's your love language in astrology. It's how you give and receive love. Now, some people say the way a person loves in Venus, that's more so for women, and the way a person loves in Mars is more so for men. But we're going to get into that in a second. Now listen, Mars is how you act, desire, and assert yourself. It's how you go for things. So Mars represents your drive, ambition, your sexual energy, and how you pursue goals. It's your inner fire. It's how you fight. And that sounds a lot like what to do with that sacred energy. Mars also shows your energy style and how you get things done and assert yourself, right? So look, now together, the blend of these two tells a story of a romantic chemistry and a passion style. How you love is your Venus, how you pursue is your Mars. Now, I believe the reason why people say the Mars is for the men and the Venus is for the woman is because, traditionally, naturally, men are usually the pursuers. But we know in today's day and age, that's not always the case. So yes, so your Venus is how you attract and your Mars is how you pursue. Really quickly, I'm gonna speak about my Mars and my Venus. Mars in Aquarius, the rebel mind. This is just all too on point for me so far. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. Your drive and ambition comes from originality, intellect, and independence. You act on ideas, innovations, and ideals, not impulse or emotion. You fight for causes, freedom, or future visions. Your willpower comes from conviction, not ego. You prefer non-traditional approaches. This is all on point, family. Whether in work, conflict, and attraction, in relationships, you need mental connection and space. Very on point, right? My girl could tell you about that. My girl can tell you about that. My exes can tell you about that. That is very point about myself. And I knew that about myself before I knew about my full chart. Absolutely. Before I knew about my Mars in Aquarius and what that said about me. You like partners who stimulate your mind and respect your individuality. Even my mother has said this about me. She doesn't even know what my Mars sign is. She doesn't. She doesn't know that this says this. She's said this about me. She says Jay needs a person who can stimulate him mentally, and that is absolutely true. With all those 5, right? So my sun in Sagittarius, what I said about that, my moon in Capricorn, my rising Libra, my Libra rising, right? The ascendant sign, my Mars in Aquarius, and my Scorpio and Venus, all together. This is why I talked about earlier in the video, why the putting them all together is what makes it unique for you. And what that says for me, it says you're a philosopher with purpose. That's my whole identity. Even if you want to talk about the egotistical identity, who I am in the world, the physical world, whether that's representative of spiritual growth or whatever the case is, I am very much a philosopher with purpose. Absolutely. I'm not making these videos for fun. You feel what I'm saying? I don't make these videos for fun. Now, I do enjoy it because it's what I'm supposed to do. So naturally, my soul is going to reward me with that feeling of this is right. This is what I should be doing because it's what I'm supposed to do. Now, right, so you're a philosopher with purpose. A mix of fire, earth, air with a hint of water intensity. This is based off of only those 5 signs. I didn't put in basically my other signs. So this is what that says about that. So really, my full chart is almost like a perfect balance of the 4 elements, right? Because, you know, different signs are different elemental signs or belongs to a different element. Based on the big 3 and then, you know, the ones that involve with Mars and Venus. So look what it says. It says Sagittarius sun gives you adventure and vision. Capricorn moon grounds you with determination and realism. Libra rising wraps it all in a charm of social grace. Venus in Scorpio adds depth, mystery, and emotional magnetism. Mars in Aquarius drives you with originality and rebellion. All very true. Now, you're someone who seeks meaning but stays grounded in reality. Appears calm and composed yet feels deeply passionate inside. Very much true. Anybody who knows me in real life, you can see in my videos I'm very passionate. But if you know me in real life, generally I'm very calm. I'm very cool, I'm chill, I'm laid back. That's how I naturally am. A lot of that is something that's people who are like empathic and, you know, sensitive to energy are naturally like that. When you're younger, you don't know what it is, but something about being around people, interacting with people too much just drains your energy, and it just, your aura is too open and other people's energies mix in too much, and it messes you up a little bit. You know, the older your soul gets, no matter what your chart says about yourself, eventually you're going to start to focus more on the spiritual. Balance is freedom and loyalty. You want independence, but when you love, you go all in. I got a big heart, man. You're a visionary realist, passionate, charming, and complex. You crave both depth and freedom. Very, very true. To be real, those are probably the 2 things I crave more than anything. Anything, for real. Those are the things that I find beauty in life. When something is deep, depth, I always speak about like the art of things. I love the art behind things, the science behind things, the deep thing. I'm always the type of person who wants to have a deep conversation. If it's not a deep conversation, I'm kind of disinterested because I feel like I have to dumb myself down for something so simple. Now, don't get me wrong, simple conversations are necessary in life, but I don't like those forced surface level unnecessary ones. And the freedom part, absolutely, because I believe these things are a human's right, a being's right. But yeah, family. So we just scratched the surface in astrology and what your chart would say about you. I just went over my chart. Now I do, or part of my chart, right? Like I said, there's 11 placements. I went over 5 of them. So I went over a little less than half of it. Those are at least to me the most relevant. I take that back again. Like I said earlier in the video, they're all very important because they all say different things about yourself. And I probably will do a part 2 to be honest, because I don't want to make this video too long, like I said, and we're gonna talk more about that. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do a part 2, matter of fact. So I'm gonna do a part 2, and I'm also going to be doing a video about numerology. Now here's the thing, they're both true, and I'm going to speak about why that is. Yeah, family, that's all I got to say for today. For right now, you know, make sure that y'all know more about y'all signs, especially if you only know your sun sign, and understand what that means for you. And, you know, I just find it hard to believe because all those things are spot on. Oh, this is what I wanted to mention. As I'm talking, it's like something in my mind. I'm like, yo, I'm forgetting something. This is what I also wanted to mention. You know, when you read what your chart says online, you have to be weird. You have to find, don't just go with the surface level of things, because a lot of those things of what I was reading, a lot of it was basically talking about the positive things about having like a Libra rising and a Venus and Scorpio. Those are the positive sides of things. Not everything is sunshine and dandelions in this life. So you have to find out what challenges you have as a person based on your chart as well. But I feel like that's important after you understand everything your chart says about yourself. So you want to start there. You want to learn your sun, your moon, your rising, your Venus, your Mars, and then you want to get more in depth of what we're going to talk about in the next video. And then you want to get into your numerology and learn more about that. And then you can start looking into what are some challenges that you are naturally meant to face in life, or things that you naturally have difficulty with in this life. But yeah, family, that's all I got to say for today. I love y'all.